Good morning. Happy Easter. The lesson this morning is from the book of Luke, chapter 24, verses 1 through 12. The resurrection of Jesus. But on the first day of the week, at early dawn, they came to the tomb, taking the spices they had prepared. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but when they went in, they did not find the body. While they were perplexed about this, suddenly 2 men in dazzling clothes stood beside them. The women were terrified and bowed their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, but has risen. Remember how he told you while he was still in Galilee that the Son of Man must be handed over to the sinners and be crucified, and on the third day rise again." Then they remembered his words, and returning from the tomb, they told all this to the 11 and to the rest. Now it was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women with them who told this to the apostles. But these words seemed to be an idle tale, and they did not believe them. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb. Stooping and looking in, he saw that the linen clothes by themselves. Then he went home, amazed at what had happened. The word of God for all the people.
May the words of my lips and meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, you who are our rock and our Redeemer. May the grace and peace and love of our Lord Jesus Christ be with us all. Amen. Amen. Last week, as those of you who are worshiping here, which I assume all of you were, so we followed through the events, I know through the readings, the whole last week of Jesus' life. And they ended with the readings on Saturday of the in-between time, if you will, after Jesus' death on Friday. And the mood of the people on that day was one of despair, who were followers of Jesus. The one they had thought was the one was dead. The one they had placed their hopes in was dead. In despair, even a sense of hopelessness was in the air. Unlike sometimes during this week for some people, I have felt the very same way. My friends in Brussels, families of children and adults who were getting ready to fly somewhere, killed. They had their hopes dashed. Somewhere this week, elderly couple got a call from a son or a daughter, maybe both, and said, "We really had planned to come and be with you this weekend. But you know, things got really busy and we can't make it. I hope you understand." Oh, we understand. But when they get off the phone, they don't even look at one another because there's tears and sadness in their eyes. Somewhere this week, actually on an average of 22 times this week, a United States veteran committed suicide. 154 a month. You can figure out that amount for a year. Those families dashed hopes. Somewhere someone has received the word from the doctor which they didn't want to hear. Not good news. Not about the birth of a baby, but about a cancer that has spread across their body. Or someone has said to another, I'm sorry, but I no longer love you. I want a divorce. Hopes get dashed. And that's where the disciples were on the day of Jesus' death and the day after. And Easter was a response, if you will, to that hopelessness. It's a response which we might say the best of all is that God is with us. That's what Easter says. The best of all in spite of Brussels, in spite of the suicides, in spite of, God is with us. And in our interrupted lives, which happen, I know, having talked with someone a while back, where suicide took the life of somebody very special. How interrupted those lives were. Henry Nouwen says that in our interrupted lives, we sometimes find God the closest. Eddie, can't think of her last name, but the wonderful Jewish prisoner in World War II that wrote a book called The Interrupted Life, said that life's interruptions is where, in her, as she was in prison, and she wrote this diary which was put together, she said, in the interrupted parts of my life is where I discovered that within the well of my soul is God. And there are oftentimes I put stones and debris over it. I have to dig them out and get them off, and then I have the experience of God in fullness. The interrupted life is something we all experience. And what it's saying is that God is with us during those times. Now, sometimes interruptions happen which we haven't planned on, and some, a fellow had brought himself a wonderful set of new golf clubs, all set for the season. And like the weather you had when I went to Florida, it just got warm, didn't it? I thought, oh shoot, I was hoping they would be 50 below. And I would really feel extra good. No, I'm mean, but not that mean. No. But the weather's good, so the guy said, I'll get those clubs out of the garage where I put them. And he went out and they were gone. And he was sure they'd been stolen. And he looked across, there was a teenage boy over across the street. And he watched that teenage boy and the way he walked. I bet he's the guilty one. Look, he just glanced over at me. I bet it's that kid. The way he walked, watched him for a week. Positive this boy had stolen the clubs. Then he got a call from his brother-in-law who said, I hope you didn't mind that I borrowed your clubs. He looked at that boy the next week and he thought, wow, what a wonderful looking young man. The interruptions in our life, how do we look at them, I guess, is what I want to say about that story. How do we see them? Do we see them like Eddie does in the prison as a way to dig deep to the well? Interruptions, are they a way that God speaks to us through the interruptions? Are there times in our life when we discover that this is what life is about? It is interruptions. And that's where God is. the disciples' lives were interrupted when Jesus died, because they had their plans. They had already wrote out in their time schedule what they were going to be doing. And they were already arguing who was going to be the best, James or John, who was going to be tops. You know, they had, boom, gone. Interruptions. And sometimes when those interruptions happen, we have to ask, what does that mean that I do with the time that I have? And how can it be used creatively? Or is it just something that I move through and put in the hours until I get a call beyond that? Mom was out with her son who was on a slide in the playground and watching her son slide, and she was sitting on the park bench. A man came over and sat down on the same bench, and his son went up and got on the swings and watched it. They didn't chat or anything, they just watched their child. And then finally, the dad said, Todd, in a few minutes we need to go. Okay, Dad, but 5 minutes more, okay? And the 5 minutes were up, and he said, Todd, it's about time for us to go. And he said, just 5 minutes more, Dad? Okay. And he continued to sit there and tap it again the third time. Todd, we probably need to go. Just 5 minutes more, Dad. Would that be okay? Okay. And she turned to him. She said, my, you're a patient father. And he said, last year, Tommy, Todd's brother, was killed by a drunken driver on the street. I'd give anything for 5 minutes more with Tommy, and I never spent time with Tommy, or very little time. I'd give anything for 5 minutes more with him. And what my son doesn't know, Todd out there, is that I'm having more fun than he is watching him slide. What do we do with the minutes that we have? And the best of all is that God is with us in all of those minutes, all of those times. Movie came out a few years ago with DiCaprio in it. Actually got nominated for a Best Actor and didn't get it that year. Blood Adventure, I think, was the title of it. It was set in the Sierra Leone War. And there was a boy, a Mendi tribe, which was attacked by the enemy, and many of the people were killed. And the father was sent off to work in the diamond mill. And the boy, one of the boys in the family, was captured and put into the military service for them, brainwashed basically, over a period of time. And there comes a scene in the movie when the boy, whose name is Didi, is told to kill Solomon, who is his father. And he puts the gun to Solomon's head, not remembering that it's his father because he'd been brainwashed. And his father talks to him and says words to this effect: Didi, you're my son. Didi, you're a good boy. Didi, you don't need to do this because you're a good boy. Your mom is at home baking bananas. Your sister is there with the baby. Didi, you don't need to do this. Didi, the cows need calling and you need to go get them. And Didi, Barnacle, that wild dog that only behaves with you, is waiting for you to call him. Didi, why don't you come home? And Didi drops the gun and realizes who he is. He runs into his father's arms and says, I want to go home. Easter is that all of us can go home, even when our hopes are dashed, even when our moments get filled, even when we wonder what life has in store for us. Easter says, come home. Because I'm just filled with grace for you, God says. And you don't grab grace, I just give it to you. You simply receive it. And I've got a big heart of love, and I want it for you. I want it for the terrorists in Brussels. I want it for the person who's got the word that cancer has gripped their body. I want it for the boy whose dreams are crushed because of a broken leg. I want it for you and you. Because the best of all about Easter is that God is with us. Those words were the words of John Wesley when he was dying at 90 years of age. He'd given his life for God, and he said the best of all before he died. The best of all, God is with us. Easter proclaims that. Maybe share that.